Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the World Championship Series, Starcraft 2 WCS Winter Europe Edition. I'm Nathanius, joined by Zombie Grub. We're moving into the lower bracket match of Group C for Chroma. I'm just going to use the word Chroma. That's the first C word I could think of.
I was thinking Conundrum.
Conundrum, Group C for Conundrum. It is quite a conundrum that the best PvP player is in the lower bracket match.
Yeah.
That's dangerous.
I mean, DNS is no slouch for PvP, obviously. He took the 2-0, but even before that, you'd be like, yeah, he's pretty good. That's one of his best matchups, too. But then 2-0.
2-0 ShoWTime, yeah.
That's...
Like, there's like a whole meme around ShoWTime where it's like people, I think it was pro gamers were posting their like win rates because people were trying to do like this weird balance whining thing about TVP, and that they look at ShoWTime, they're like, no, actually his PvP is better than his PvT. Like, he does not lose PvP on Europe server. He is the best.
Yeah.
And for him to go down 0-2 in the first match really surprised me. And now he's against a wild card player who we just saw break out cannon rushes. Is he going to be able to cheese out or otherwise deceive our favored, I would say, the person who should have gotten out, I would have guessed would have gotten out of this group in first place?
Well, that is the question. I would love to see a cannon rush in PvP, maybe later in the series. In the bottom right, as the blue Protoss, he is Hellraiser.
He's facing off against the red Protoss player in the Northwest. A lot of people in the chat have been spamming that German phrase that I can't remember. He is ShoWTime!
Demawa.
Demawa. Yeah.
I'll always remember it. I'll never be able to pronounce it correctly because I'll always say meower.
I think the German word that I probably know the best from all the games of ShoWTime is he's been crushing it forever. Him and Hero Marine is me and Incontrol's favorite, actually. It's a Meisterschaft.
There you go.
Best one.
That is it's a fun word to say.
It is.
Yeah. Recently, Hellraiser's actually been playing a lot versus DNS.
Has he?
Yeah, he's got at least 2 in the last month, I think, the last 2 months. And he's been able, he was beat by DNS, but just kind of a barely thing. I think Hellraiser is one of those up-and-coming Protosses that the reason they are up-and-coming is a lot off the back of their PvP in qualifiers. So with that said, I still think ShoWTime is the favored, even though he's been showing, is obviously a little testy against DNS. I still think he'll do well against Hellraiser, but if Hellraiser also snipes ShoWTime, I'll be like, well, I guess PvP is just not ShoWTime's matchup today, and that sometimes happens, I guess.
As far as WCS upsets go, in my mind, the only real one that we've had is still Cham advancing over Special in Americas, and we haven't really had that in Europe.
Not really.
This would be the first, in my opinion, this would be the first like significant enough upset. If ShoWTime not getting out of this group would be pretty big upset. I think everybody tuning in expects ShoWTime to get out.
Right.
But now he's in the lower bracket match, and you're like, well, what if someone, it's like ShoWTime and a laser should have been first and second, but now it's
up in the air, yeah. I think the only thing to say for the Europe section is that Nurchio getting out 4th in his group, that is bombing out of his group, not to use too harsh of a phrase, was the surprise. But there's also a bit of a question mark on Nurchio, in the postseason when really, or the off-season, really there wasn't supposed to be a question mark for ShoWTime.
Nurchio had a really weird thing where he like kind of arced up fast and he was doing well, but then it's not even like he stopped being like a round of 16 top 8 player, but other Zerg players like really stepped up. Namely speaking, a laser and obviously Cyril. Because we had that whole thing where we're like, whoa, the other Polish Zergs are starting to get big. And then Cyril's like, hello. Finland is back.
That's a good way to put it. So we have both going into a Nexus as openers, right? We got a lot of sentries from Hellraiser. They both went for that sentry opener, so we both see Hallucinant Phoenix at the same time. If you're aggressive with your set of units, and you can try and stall out your opponents. Obviously, that can backfire, though, for multiple reasons. They both realized they both opened the same way.
You know what, Zombie Grub? Actually, you make a really good point. I want to draw attention to this because this is really weird. He did open with 3 sentries. I don't know the last time I saw this happen in PvP. 3 sentry opening? No one does that.
So, yeah.
I don't think I've cast a PvP where someone opened with 3 sentries like this in the last like year or 2.
Actually, believe it or not, I think Fear Dragon was talking about Estrella doing a lot of sentry opener, but I don't know.
I didn't cast that game, so.
Well, yes.
But yeah, anyway, I'm just saying that I'm surprised to see this, and I'm wondering if it is a key factor. He's just like, I want to have nonstop hallucinations going. I don't know.
It's, yeah, I mean, it's obviously one thing you can do with sentries, but we saw ShoWTime warp in a ton, even though it was after a couple more stock warp-ins. He still warped in faster sentries than I would have expected in that second game versus DNS, and he did try and have multiple hallucinations, but then was either cut short or they didn't do a good job, or yeah, he had to pop Guardian Shield. Force fields are amazing earlier on when you're still at a very small number of units, especially in the hands of a real pro. It can be super, super useful, but they're also great at scouting. So the depths run in here into a bunch of stalkers.
1, 2, and going for 3. Nope.
Well, it may have been a lot more about the Oracles.
Oracles, yep, pulls the stalkers back in with that recall. Goes up to 4 workers killed.
That's
Wow.
pretty good. That was, you wouldn't usually see a recall from the natural there, but that ended up being quite perfect.
That's 200 IQ recall there from Hellraiser, man. He's breaking out the weird stuff today. I like it.
Yeah, and it's unlikely that I'll have to use a recall, right, in the next minute.
Yeah, I mean, he's the defender at this point in time, right?
Yeah, I guess he did lose Chronos for that, but
He's gonna start up his third base. It ain't nothing but a thing, baby.
that's a pretty quick third base.
For PvP, yeah.
He will have control over the map with the blink, so that in a way it makes sense, and we are going to guess, we're going to assume, we're actually going to watch, actually, ShoWTime wait for that upgrade.
It can be really nerve-wracking, though, Zombie Grub, right? Because the Immortal into charge, and that's the army for Protoss that's, like, good, right? Unless you go into Disruptors with your Stalkers, the Stalkers aren't really giving you insane value, and then you just get bowled over by Charge Lot Archon Immortal because Stalkers just can't fight that head-to-head. So at some point you need to make the transition. There's charge immediately after Blink. He starts up 6 gates, but you still need to be cautious that your opponent isn't going to attack you anytime soon.
Right. And that's the thing, is that ShoWTime, you know, in the last PvP series, he showed that +2 timing that does seem to be most PvPs. But if you saw an extremely quick third base like this, if you knew they went into Stalkers as well, so not immediately into that charge, immediately into Immortals, this might be an opportunity to attack as soon as your Templar Archives is done, not waiting for that +2, but rather going with only +1.
Yep, I completely agree with you. That's exactly what I was thinking. I'm like, there is going to be a window where this third base will not have paid for itself, and Hellraiser is spending money building probes that will also take a little bit of time to pay for themselves. So Warp Prism is coming in. Templar Archives is almost done for ShoWTime, and he's just going to take his own third. I find this horrifying. I don't know why. Maybe I'm like really just paranoid. I'm like, man, you're just going to do the same thing your opponent is doing, but much later. Can be really risky.
I feel like ShoWTime should apply some pressure, though, since he got a Warp Prism, right? Like, he can, even against Blink Stalkers that threaten, you know, jumping in or something like that in PvP, an Immortal sometimes handles it. I feel like he's going to go on the map.
Yeah,
and
don't want to be too passive. You know, it's not NA server, all right? Can't just let your opponent sit back and do whatever they want to do.
I mean, because ShoWTime invests in his own Nexus instead of just like, you know, full army, he's still down in army supply. So an attack wouldn't even really work that efficiently.
So our other German player was at an event, right? And playing out of a hotel yesterday.
Oh,
ShoWTime's at home, right? Do we know that? We have confirmation that he's not playing off of hotel internet.
Yeah, we don't have confirmation, but that is.
I'm just nervous. I'm looking at the supply. Which, by the way, it is a bit inflated because there's 7 Stalkers for Hellraiser, which are going to be worthless in the real fight.
Yeah, you know, I was always on board that whole, like, well, our Stalkers really going to be that great, but then you see them blink, grab a Warp Prism, you see them grab the shield off an Immortal and then blink back. Like, they are still useful, I think, when they're still around this lower supply. And 10 supply up, yeah, maybe it's more Stalkers than ShoWTime. They might still be able to look quite worthwhile, especially if ShoWTime is to take 2 Immortals out of the equation entirely while he's about to be attacked. ShoWTime, very bold here. I guess he didn't actually... I thought he saw the army with Lucid Phoenix. He's preparing for it.
He's going to try and drop the Stasis Ward, gets the denial on it, and we're going to have Hellraiser just charge right on in. So many Zealots, by the way, 26 versus 14 now. As he barrels through, it's the same number of Archons. Going without the Immortals, he doesn't carry. He just has so many Zealots charging through everything. Hellraiser, what a strategy. What a move. GG. He goes up 1-0 over our German Protoss player. Is ShoWTime going to go out 0-2-0-2 in his group?
This is...
in PvP?
Not supposed to happen. The thing is...
Are we in the right timeline? Did they... Is it still Berenstain Bears? Nobody knows?
it's like the thing is, like, maybe the first game of the day with DNS's aggression, you'll be like, yeah, that was a really close micro match. Like, okay, fine, ShoWTime loses that. But in the second game versus DNS was like mostly macro based, and that just didn't go his way. He lost sight of the army too often. I guess you could, just chalk it up to that. And in this game, it really wasn't like I guess his opening didn't really work out with the double oracles, getting the one sniped, and they didn't do any damage. So that is something to consider.
The 2 adapts, the 2 oracles.
Yeah.
He slowed himself down in his own way. Still, felt like a really greedy third base for Hellraiser to take. And because he got away with it, then you're like, he didn't want to do the immortal thing. He just got more gates, and he attacked with 28 versus like 17 zealots in that fight, and they both had 3 archons. He's like, I don't really care about the immortals. 2 mortal difference doesn't mean anything when I've got 10 more zealots than you.
Yeah, and
the charge.
That is often how it goes, and it is so hard for the defending or anyone really to micro the immortals right on those stalkers.
It's a cool PvP build. I actually really like seeing that. Hellraiser showing some very creative play today. It fell very flat on its face versus a laser, but I really like what he's already showing. And ShoWTime looks very, what's the word? I don't know. I wouldn't want to say indecisive because like he made that early attack, but it just didn't work. And then Hellraiser's like, well, now I have room to take the third. Is that what went down? Maybe Hellraiser wasn't being that greedy.
I mean, it's...
I guess it is all relative to what you assume the other player has or what they actually have compared to what you think they have. God, PvP is an enigma. I've got a 12-sided Rubik's Cube, and I don't know how to solve it, Zombie Grub.
It's pretty difficult, and that's, I mean, certainly one of the reasons why when we go to PvPs, we say, like, oh, it's PvP, it can go either way. But then when someone shows, the 80% win record in it, you assume that they're not going to get bombed out.
Yeah.
Lose all 4 of their PvPs.
It's just especially when you know the player is good already, and it's their best matchup. It's like in 2017, if you were like, oh, yeah, Neeb's playing a Zerg, like, obviously he's going to win. Like, this is the matchup that he just constantly dominates in. And then I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, if you're ShoWTime, you win PvP. It's what you do.
Apparently not today. In the top left, he is up 1 in the loser's match. It is the blue Protoss, Hellraiser.
Yeah, he's taken ShoWTime into the dark portal to that terrible place in this match so far. Of course, I'm talking about our red Terran, Protoss player in the bottom right. His name is ShoWTime. Sorry, Terran players are usually being brought to dark place by Protoss, so it was, just kind of.
As soon as you mentioned dark portals, dark places, you're like, oh,
yeah, I was like, went straight back to ladder. Damn it. Got it. Looks like I need another session with the therapist after that.
Oh, you know what? ShoWTime. He went down 0-1 to DNS. We thought maybe he'd bring in some aggression. He did bring in some aggression. He was the one that proxied a pylon and started things, but it didn't really end up doing very much or going anywhere. Will he change it up again, or will he just defend? It's so weird to say that I'm about to say this, and it's so weird for me. ShoWTime is not actually working with the defensive macro, but that is literally what he's known for.
Yep.
And it's not working today. So is it time to really change things up and really go dedicated on the attack? Or is it already too risky?
ShoWTime do some insane, pick up the sledgehammer like you're doing the Atlas Smash and just go to town. I want to see something crazy, something weird. I want to feel uncomfortable watching this game from ShoWTime. I don't want this passive defensiveness. Also, I'm still going to be weirded out if Hellraiser opens 3 sentries again.
Well, they ended up, I mean,
he won the game, but that alone does not necessarily excuse it. I thought he was going to do something fancy with them, but he's like, no, I'm just going to keep scouting with Hallucinated Phoenix, which is also fine.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to point out with the observers that, that they were constantly sending Hallucinated Phoenix out, trying to get a good handle on what each other were doing. So I thought ShoWTime would be more prepared for that attack.
Yeah.
But all he did was get into a concave, which, that's the first way you defend an attack. But then you have to look at just how big that army is, how many probes they have at the third nexus, if they have the gases right. And then I would have expected ShoWTime to maybe take it, first of all, pull the War Prism with the Archons back. That was weird that he just pushed it out and was like, yeah, I hope this works. And then maybe rely more on shield batteries, high ground, that type of thing. But yeah, that was also a map that we didn't really get to pinpoint, but Cyberforce has that weird defenders not advantage because it has the well. So, but it was also just a supremely bigger army supply for Hellraiser. So it's like, was that really part of it? Probably not. It was just Hellraiser getting that Nice fast third base and an extreme amount of charge lots.
Both going for the double sentry fall. Actually, wait, no. What happened to this planet? ShoWTime's opening 3 sentries now.
Yeah, they both are.
Okay, maybe I just missed something in PvP in the last week.
Maybe you did. I mean, it's something that I think I've seen before, but I think
sentries make sense. Like I've seen the 2. Usually it's like you open Stalker Sentry and then you go into Stalkers because you want a sentry to scout with. But that's weird. I mean, I was like, okay, Hellraiser plays a bit differently, but then ShoWTime doesn't. I'm like, okay, maybe this is just something that I'm...
It sets you up really well against...
cast in a lot of games, so I'm just a little bit surprised by this.
Well, no, I think... What I was going to say is that a lot of the WCS groups, we have not seen this, like specifically in this tournament, right?
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of the proxies, right, or the Adept openers in a Stargate, or...
Like maybe... I haven't even seen too much PvP in GSL either. I don't know. I'm just wondering where this came from. I'm like, I haven't seen this anywhere. But
what it does well against, right, is that you can actually... Before Blink is done, before an Immortal pops up or something like that, or if an Immortal is here, is that you can use your force fields to punish it, right?
But it is scary if your opponent does an attack where they bring a lot of stock. Oh my god. Do you see this?
Hallucinations. It's pretty cool.
I mean, if you think those are
very cool.
If your opponent could attack you with this many Stalkers this early, I'm going into conniption.
He focus fired all of Hallucinations too. Finally finds a real Stalker, but this is really cool from Hellraiser to bring those sentries forward. The force fields I was talking about do try to help out, but those weren't real Stalkers he was force fielding off.
Is this actually worth it at all, though?
It doesn't look that way.
No,
even with the Hallucinations tanking so much, the
Hellraiser tried to do like a really fancy running animation to like show off, and then tripped. Basically, fell on his face. That's what it feels like.
He did force the probe pull though, and so his army supply is not looking so hot. But let's assume that a 10 army supply difference isn't going to kill him.
He's ahead like a probe-ish. So that's okay. That's cool. But he did lose a lot of his army forces there. And it didn't seem like he killed too much of what ShoWTime had.
Yeah. Well, the force fields, they did their
like
part of it.
Hallucinations used in a fight like that, though.
Yeah. He's going to actually try and be aggressive. So the sentries can't even really help out anymore, right? They have maybe 1 force field? Hold on. Let me click it. Darn. Oh, I have 2 force fields. Okay. So maybe they can go ahead and just push that Immortal forward, and that would be an amazing pickoff. He scouts the army, scouts the lack of a shield battery, but he's not going to try.
You know what the best unit to hallucinate for a fight used to be?
What?
The Immortal.
Oh, yeah. Oh, totally.
Back in the day, the Immortal still had the hardened shield even when it was hallucinated. It took double damage, but it was like you could only ever deal 20 max. So sometimes it would even look like it was not hallucinated because of that.
I wasn't sure if you're going with the legitimate one or the funny one where it's like the answer is probe because you make 4 of them. Hallucination.
That's something like Rifkin would say or something like that.
No, the Immortal was really sick. Doesn't really have the same effect anymore. Hellraiser once again moving out here. He has stopped producing probes. When we mentioned that probe lead is kind of around the time that he stopped, so 36 to 45. He has got back up in that army supply, but that is, very important the way I'm saying it. He's gotten back up in it. He's not really pushed the army supply that much farther than ShoWTime, so I think defensively ShoWTime's going to be fine. If Hellraiser gets some really awesome blink micro, maybe he catches an Immortal off guard, then that's where things can really start to work. But this attack doesn't seem like it's that well set up for. It's like the Destiny's not that great.
Yeah, it's going to be hard because that micro has to come straight from the prism. There is no blink here. He's just going to push with what he's got. Warps in a bunch of Adepts. Maybe he's going to try and shade them through onto the sentries before the fight starts. Oh no, the Immortal. You got to turn that prism back into transport mode, bring it over, pick him up. Now you got to wait. The Immortal's cooldowns proc. He's out of shields. Does Hellraiser have enough to break ShoWTime? 3 shield batteries, 2 Immortals, the prism support, of course, in the sentries. A couple of force fields going to be used to push the army back as this force tries to encroach, but great micro from ShoWTime with that warp prism to keep everything alive.
I mean, what Hellraiser has is more Stalkers than his opponent, which doesn't feel like it's going to be worthwhile. We're talking about shield batteries, we're talking about 3 Immortals, a warp prism and a micro. Charges is finished up with +1 for ShoWTime as well. Hellraiser really trying to make this work. Still has a slight lead, but it doesn't feel like it's going to do it.
There's just so many Adepts. You know what? ShoWTime is so good. He's still throwing down pylons on top of the ramp during this fight just to keep the Adepts from trying to go into the main. Really well played. ShoWTime gets himself on the board for the first time in today's group, staying alive.
Yeah, I think that just felt like an anti-timing for Hellraiser. His first attack was supposed to probably do a little bit more so that ShoWTime was still recuperating, and instead ShoWTime had an even army supply whilst getting +1 and charge and a bunch of shield batteries. Like, he just seemed like he was pretty well defended. Not that that was an easy stomp. Like, you know, Hellraiser did actually last longer than anticipated.
And Hellraiser's first attack really did not do what you're hoping for. Because the thing is, he force fielded those hallucinations. So while, yes, he, like, focus fired and killed them, he wasn't really being attacked either. Because hallucinations don't do damage. So it was kind of an awkward exchange, to say the least.
Yeah, but that's how sentries, you know, defensively. I think if you're like a Gold League Protoss watching this and like sentries don't do that much damage, like how much can they really do? And then you watch them in action with good force fields and you're like, oh, that's what they can do.
Yep. So that's the situation where those 3 sentries are really useful, because if you don't have those force fields and your opponent pushes you with, what was it, 12 stalkers, 4 of which are fake?
Yes, it's something like that, yeah.
If all of those stalkers are shooting and he targets the hallucinations first, then I think ShoWTime might actually die there.
Yeah.
But the use of the force fields is what made it work. Because even though it's like, yes, the hallucinations did their job, it's like all they really did was delay the stalkers themselves dying, because Hellraiser still attacked when the force fields ran out anyway.
Yeah. So very cool idea, and certainly a one if ShoWTime like didn't have the split second micro, he's just like, what the heck? There's so many stalkers. He messes up. Suddenly it's very different. Or if he had just not gone for the sentries,
you know,
maybe
hallucinates
he was
4 void rays and rage quits. Never seen that before though. That would you'd have to make a huge blunder to do something like that.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna be seeing that.
Yeah.
But Hellraiser bringing the aggression in both games, even though the first game was a little bit longer of one. I'm gonna guess he's gonna be the same thing here in game number 3. Their lives are still on the line though, as we come into Kairos Junction, as it is the losers match. In the bottom right, as the blue Protoss, he is Hellraiser.
And his opponent in the Northwest, our red Protoss player, known for his PvP, but riding the struggle bus today, he is ShoWTime. The Mauer. It's even on his graphic now.
It's a pretty cool name.
Do you know what it means?
The wall, isn't it?
Okay.
I thought that's what it was.
Wow, that's fitting. WCS Winter, the wall, all that. Well, the wall kind of gets broken down if we're really thinking about Winter being here, so I don't know. There's like 7 different degrees of wall references you can make in 2019.
I wasn't sure which one you were going.
Yeah. It's really hard to make wall jokes these days. Damn.
You just you can say there's a national emergency for ShoWTime right now.
Perhaps. Perhaps. Do not want all those adepts shading in, you know. They will ravage your economy. So we have the worker scouts going out for both players. PvP. It's good times. It's good times.
It is seriously a fun matchup to really like dig deep and analyze, but it's not a fun matchup for the players when they don't get that perfect scouting, when they don't
Shield battery is the best thing that ever happened to this matchup, Zombie Grub. Do you agree or disagree?
Well, the alternative was a mothership core, so yes, I agree.
Okay. Yeah. I'm like, if you look at it outside the perspective of other matchups, Protoss PvP has always been weird, and for any of you guys that like only started watching Starcraft in the last year or so, like there used to be not really that many good defensive mechanics for Protoss that weren't also amazing aggressive mechanics. So pretty much every single game was just people warping in each other's bases and killing each other extremely fast, doing the same builds, because they were so hard to stop that if you didn't do that, you usually just died.
Yeah.
Now we've kind of reached this place where people have options. You don't have to 4-gate. You can open with Adepts if you want. You can go Stalkers. You can go Stalker Sentry. Stargate's good. Robo's good. Twilight's good. It's not as hard of a rock, paper, scissors as it used to be.
Yeah. So ShoWTime saw the lack of a second pylon, but he hasn't been anything out to search for it. He did see the Adepts pop out, I believe, with this pylon. That's why it's there, so he should have seen it. Actually, wait. That's really bold of the Sentry to go forward.
Stepping out like that.
Okay, buddy. Yeah, you go back there.
That is how you die. He's going to go 3 sentries. Now, the double Adept opening will be pretty strong against this if he doesn't build the shield battery at the top of the ramp. He does. Okay, so the Adepts will not be able to get in. That's really important. Imagine 2 Adepts shade in and just kill those 3 sentries you made.
Yeah, that'd be bad news.
Definition of pain right there.
ShoWTime is about to lose a pylon, but he's still Gucci on the supply.
So Hellraiser proxied that 1 pylon, but he actually just builds the Stargate at home.
Yeah.
Here's a fun question, Zombie Grub,
What's
and
up?
I feel embarrassed to admit that I don't already know this, but Guardian Shield, it doesn't affect the Oracle's attack, does it? Because it
No,
is
it's
a
a
ranged
spell.
attack, but because it's a spell.
Yeah, it's a spell.
The fact that it still comes from a weapon that's turned on or off still really bothers me.
Well, at one point they changed it for whatever
Yeah,
God knows why reason, and then they changed it back.
They changed it for a day,
Yeah.
and then they were like, you know what? No, queens need to be able to kill everything.
Yes, that's the reason. Yeah, the procs probably not being really used. The stalkers here just walked across the map looking for some freebies. They don't find any. In fact, it kind of turns on Hellraiser a little bit.
Yep.
Well,
Well, if he
now
baits
he's using
this-
it.
That's it. He's like, I wanted you to kill my army, Yugi. I have my trap right here. Let's see what the Oracle can get done. He's heading into the main. The Stalkers are in a race to get back in. Oh, there's a shield battery.
Yeah, he's actually not that worried. Even the 3
Womp,
sentries
womp, womp.
are going to help out here. But Hellraiser really trying to find ShoWTime missed split by using that proxy pylon.
Oof.
Well, he doesn't find it. And once again, this is all turning back on Hellraiser. He's the one losing out here.
Yeah, awkward micro positioning, by the way. The third Stalker not able to do a whole lot. I'm not gonna lie, I went down a rabbit hole the other day. Printf puts out these like really cool minute videos
Yeah.
where he goes over like micro tactics, and it blew my mind the last one that was like going over Stalker kiting micro, and it's like if you have like 2 less Stalkers in a small group, even if you have 2 upgrades versus unupgraded, you die unless you micro them in a line with like I was like, oh my god, like the amount of micro you can do with just small Stalker skirmishes is insane. He loses another Oracle!
Well, this is more in line with what we expected from ShoWTime.
Yeah.
He's controlling this game quite convincingly.
He's looking like D-Mauer once again.
Yes, he is. Slow natural gases, there we go. For Hellraiser, he is going into that blink tech once again. He's getting a much faster +1 attack, so he will be able to control the map, but ShoWTime actually not going to give him that time. It is now the time to be aggressive, although without a warp prism, you wonder how long it's going to last.
It will be a little bit tricky when you can't reinforce that effectively. And there is a lot here for Hellraiser with blink and +1 coming. ShoWTime's like, you know what? No, that's not a good idea. Let's take a third base.
Yeah, maybe, I don't actually know. Maybe you're just hoping more shield batteries would be forced down, or that there wouldn't be one to begin with, and then you scout that there was, but that's not gonna happen. Adepts are setting themselves up for maybe more harassment. Scout going in the main, sees what it should, Robo and +1. Third base will be coming down for both parties soon enough, so we see both of them adding on technology.
Yep. Charge +1. That's what I like to see. I was questioning how much the impact of the charge timing would affect Hellraiser in game number 1, but I was proven super wrong, so I'm going to not comment on it this game. And I would instead ask myself the question, and perhaps you and the audience, Zombie Grub, is he going to go Immortals, or is this going to be another mass Zealot attack?
I think we'll pay
Okay,
attention
never
to his
mind.
gases.
You build a Robo Bay.
Oh, well, that's...
We're going down the rabbit hole
Option number C. Robotics Bay is going to drastically change up the matchup, actually. Like, ShoWTime, theoretically, he should see this. There's been a lot of hallucinated Phoenix, but maybe not going to dig too deep. Maybe more checking on the gases and the probe count. Isn't gone back there. Oh, well, hey,
Wow,
2 adepts
two
suddenly.
slip inside of the main base. ShoWTime is going to get some damage done to these probes. This is really, really nice. Oh my goodness, the Stalker's like not really micing. The adept he warped in isn't coming over either.
That was...
I would have canceled, just canceled. Oh, never mind. I guess I wouldn't get him in the line. Like at that point, you didn't even need to cancel finish the shade. Just keep focusing probes. He just get 9 probes for 2 adepts. That's amazing.
And a scout that he was otherwise missing. That was perfect.
Yeah. Well, that really couldn't have gone any better for ShoWTime. He's got to be feeling good.
Yeah.
So the Stargate's coming up. I guess he's going to build Phoenix, right? To try and neutralize the Disruptors.
You're not guessing they're going to go in Colossus. You know they're going into Disruptors. And you could try and start your own Disruptors and maybe like catch up. It's the easier, probably better option is to go into your own Phoenix. Now there's some cool counter micro that can go down when that happens, but generally they do a great job of soft countering, let's say.
Do you remember back when PvP and like Heart of the Swarm was all Colossus?
Hello. Well,
he's doing it.
Yeah, he went for 1 Disruptor. Maybe he changed his mind because it was scouted. Maybe this was his plan all along, but this is going to be surprising for ShoWTime. I'm not really sure what happens from here, right? He's building the Phoenix to lift the Disruptors. Technically, the Phoenix will also hit the Colossus. Not usually the technology you would want. As you were talking about back in the day, it was just who had more.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was going to make a joke about how we used to have fights where it was literally like you'd stop at 9 Colossi because they were so big, like they wouldn't be able to shoot anymore. But I guess we're going down this. Okay, yeah, the Colossi are going to be in PvP.
I'm sure
you do need a lot of them for them to be good, though, in this matchup, especially since they don't do their normal damage against the big boys anymore.
Well, there's this period of time right now we're watching where ShoWTime's not going to feel like he has to be aggressive. He's going to build up that Phoenix count first. And there's a chance that he doesn't get a scout in the Colossus. Again, looks like Phoenix may be going more towards the third, seeing the gases there, and well, in this case, the lack of so far. This does not reveal the Colossus. See, again, this is exactly what Hellraiser is going to try and make work as a bamboozling. But there's always that question, I think someone who's a god at PvP can explain better as to why Colossus fell out. But in my head, it just goes along the lines of the arch of the arc of the Zealot Immortal army is going to be too strong and just collapse in on them. And
in my mind, it's the same reason why most AoE isn't popular in this matchup, and it's that the units you're going to try to hit that you're going to see spammed, the Zealots, AoE is not particularly great against them. Like you need like several storms, and then the Zealots automatically fan out because of the way that charge paths. And it's honestly, it's the same thing kind of for Colossi. You're going to have a hard time hitting all the Zealots with the attack. Disruptors are different since the Zealots are usually not engaging when you hit them with Disruptors, which makes them possible to get those juicy shots.
Oh, there he goes. I think this is his first sighting of the Colossus.
There we go.
He went for a 4th base, not knowing where the army quite was. Now he's splitting up.
So many gateway units. He has so much here. You gotta be careful. I like the little bit of hold position micro there with the Colossi. Try to let them shoot and keep the Zealots away from the Archon. That Prism pickoff is really nice. It's gonna reduce a lot of the micro that can be done here. And the Phoenix, they kind of feel useless, right?
A little bit, yeah. They're gonna maybe take the Disruptor out of commission. That's exactly what they do. But what about the Colossus? What about the War Prism?
Yep. Really hard to get behind that. I mean, there is still a lot they can deal with as the gateway units. There's those 3 Archons. One of them finally dies. But the Immortals are still alive in the back. And now the Phoenix can actually contribute to killing the Colossi. And, well, gravity has been set back to normal zombie grub.
Well, that's
almost be normal again.
He's saving the Colossus, but he can't kill the Phoenix.
Colossus mean?
That's not going to work out in the end of the day. Hellraiser still gets defeated. GG! ShoWTime.
Yeah, the gravity returns to normal. The Earth is rotating on its proper axis once again. And ShoWTime is winning Protoss versus Protoss. Woo! Golly gee.
Yeah, and Colossus are not going to make their way back in this matchup.
No, no, they are not. So with that being said, Hellraiser, eliminated from WCS Europe, walks away with, I believe, $975. So not too shabby. You can get yourself quite a few, I was going to say centuries, but you can't really buy them in real life. So let's just move on from that. ShoWTime advances to the decider, or he will play against the loser of our next best of 3, as we have just a few more matches left here in Group C for Canopy in WCS Europe. And yeah, really exciting times. Exciting times to see who's going to make it out of this group first. Will it be a Laser, who's now the favorite, or will it be our little cheeky upset? We're going to find out next. It's DNS versus a Laser coming at you.